Hello, welcome back to Al Talks. And this week's episode, I want to talk about. I've talked about it before, but I want to talk about it again because I've listened to a couple more episodes about George Lopez's podcast called. Did I? Hold on. George Lopez's podcast called "Oh My God Hi." Um, last time I talked about how his a longtime friend of 20 years, Brian Callen, just decided to basically not produce the podcast with him anymore, and it was kind of wasn't great for George. They had falling out and stuff, and so then he got a different producer and a young guy called Grant, and now he hosts every podcast with Gil Carrillo, the LAPD detective. Uh, sorry, LA Sheriff County Detective, LA County Sheriff, Detective Gil Carrillo, the guy who got the Night Stalker, who's featured in the Netflix documentary. And what I like about George's podcast is that he has, much like Joey Diaz and Joe Rogan, that they have these very like diverse number of guests on, because George Lopez is obviously a comedian. So there's times he'll have his comedian friends on, like he had Dan Santino on. One of the episodes that I watched, he had John Reap on. John Reap is, I came across him actually on, I think it was Instagram, watching his short reels, and he's a very, very funny comic. He's a redheaded comedian and wears a trucker hat, so it's, but yeah, he's got a very unique sense of humor. And he had Don Moreira on one of the times. In one of the last episodes that I watched, he had David Spade on. But then he has not only comedians, but he also has people that are in music. Like he had a rapper on called Show Me the Product, and a lot of his guests would be Latino. It's just that he. What I like the most is when he has guests on that were part of his show, the George Lopez show, and where they go into background stuff for movies and stuff. Well, not the movie, how they were shooting the stuff, and little kind of behind the scenes sort of things. I really enjoy listening to those. And hello, yeah. So really enjoyed that. It's quite an interesting podcast because it's like I said, the diversity in it is good, and you get to hear a lot of interesting stories and stuff like that. The recent episode with David Spade was good because he explained about his he was talking about his TV show that he was in. It became one of the most popular TV shows of all time in the US and I think around the world. And he was talking about how he was going on with his girlfriend at the time, who is now his wife. And he said, "Look, I have to do this show. This show is a great fit. I really like the script," and he just kind of went for it. And it made him very, very famous and very rich also in the process. Though it was, it's nice to kind of hear these kind of background things about comedians and stuff. Um, Similar to kind of how this podcast is, my journey through comedy and stuff. I was actually looking at the last time I did comedy, which was Stitch's new material night, which was the 11th of May, and how that's like I won't be going back doing comedy for a couple of weeks because it's just got a couple of things to take care of, and so it's a similar kind of behind the scenes that you get here. Like I said, I'll go back to doing comedy in a couple of weeks. I am writing new stuff, a couple of new bits that I want to write down and try out. So it shall we shall see how they go, because it's always exciting trying out new bits, because you know like I have a couple of bits that work and they're great and I like them, but it's fun to have a new bit and try it out on the audience and then see what the reaction is. And if it doesn't hit the way I think it should hit. For example, I have this bit about, like, there used to be a kid in my class from Germany, and like me being from Russia, World War III sort of things, and I was doing this bit. I'm one of the hosts at Stitches, Craig Moran, who's a brilliant comedian. I asked him for help with that bit once, and I said, "How can I word it slightly different?" He said, "Say it this way," and I tried it out that time. I stitched new material, and he was actually there that night. He wasn't the hosting, but he's always down there because just to help out with setup and stuff like that. But it was really good, and hello, someone's going on out in the street. Anyway, it was just, yeah, it was great. Like, so stuff like that. I do enjoy when I get, even at the Good Crack, up a mic in Bray. I asked Sean Begley to give me, what he thought of my set, and he gave me advice as well on a couple of things. So it's really nice to have comedian friends like that that'll help you out and such, like, because give you directions and stuff. Because there's another comedian, Kieran McMahon. He actually runs comedy workshops. About how to write comedy and stuff like that, and a lot of his students would be my comedian friends, and it's always great to see him and catch up with him and talk to him, because he gives you perspectives on stuff like that. So yeah, it's just kind of nice comparison, the way I see how George does his podcast, kind of all the background stuff of his show and things like that, and how I do it here. Obviously, I'm not a huge comedian like George Lopez is, though. Pretty much the entire planet knows his name. But yeah, so that'll be, I think, the podcast for this week. I haven't, like I said, I'm not doing any comedy for a while. It'll probably be sometime in June before I start on that. Yeah, most likely in June before I start any comedy. But once I get back out there, just looking at the calendar here. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I wanna travel the country a bit more. Like I said, I'm thinking about going on to Cork and Sligo, see if I can get spots down there. Because, like I said, I have nothing booked at the moment. So when I get back to do comedy, it'd probably be to do Giggles open mic sometime. I don't know, possibly in the next 2-3 weeks. We shall see. But yeah, that's the podcast for now. Anyway, once again, I'm gonna tell you can get these stickers to support this podcast and support me. They're $2.50 each, and they're $2.50 each. That includes shipping and postage. I would really appreciate them if you bought them and support me and the podcast, and But yeah, that's about it. I don't think I have anything else to add to that. Um, yeah, that's it. I mean, if you want the stickers, by the way, you can just email me or message me on my social media, and then I'll get them out to you. But yeah, that's the podcast for this week. Thank you all for watching, and I shall see you all next week.